Hey there folks, Wrel here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the surprisingly useful counterintelligence implant in PlanetSide 2. We'll go over the specifics of what it does, what it doesn't do, how to use it effectively, and help you sort out which situations are best suited to its use. The counterintelligence implant is a tier 3 implant that drains 1 energy per second. When you're Q-spotted by an enemy, the implant icon will turn red, and you'll also receive a notification near your crosshairs. Being Q-spotted just means that you have a little red triangle above your head, and the enemy knows exactly where you are on their minimap, as well as which direction you're facing. That red triangle lasts for 10 seconds, and it's going to refresh every time you're spotted. You'll know when you don't have the red kill me triangle above your head when the implant icon returns to a neutral color. An infiltrator's cloak will also remove a red triangle, and will likewise return the icon to neutral. So that's pretty simple, right? You get spotted by a bad guy, you know that you're a target now, and you can react appropriately. But there are some stipulations with how this implant functions. Before we get into that, I do want to point out that there is a bug currently. I think it was supposed to be fixed according to the issue tracker, but it does still exist at the moment. Currently, if you die while using a loadout that had counterintelligence equipped, and then you spawn in as a different class or a different loadout that isn't using it, you're still going to see it equipped. It's not going to actually affect the function of your supposed implant, but it just won't show the icon down where it's supposed to. So to work around that, you do need to resupply with a counterintelligence loadout, and then resupply again with the loadout that you actually want. As far as stipulations go, we mentioned earlier that when you're spotted, you're going to see an indicator pop up near your crosshairs. This indication only lasts for a short duration, and it's supposed to let you know that you've just been spotted by someone. This indication, however, does not pop up repeatedly if you're already spotted. And it's actually not a good thing, because basically if you're operating under the assumption that you have 10 seconds from when you get spotted to when you're not supposed to be spotted anymore, you generally have a number of ways that you can use that information to your advantage, and we'll talk about that later. But since you don't know when your spot duration was last refreshed, because you're not getting an additional notification near your crosshair, the only information that you can really rely on is the fact that when the implant turns red, you're not safe. And that's kind of unfortunate, because there's a lot of strategy that could be incorporated if the information was a little bit more refined. If the crosshair notification went off at each spotting attempt, then it could be a step in the right direction, but it also might desensitize the user to its presence, to the point where it's basically ignored. You could instead perhaps add a timer alongside the implant icon that starts at 10 seconds and then ticks down, one that's repeatedly reset to 10 seconds each time a spot is refreshed, and that would help refine that information a whole lot. I'd personally prefer just adding a blanket benefit to the implant by reducing the duration that you're spotted by a few seconds. So instead of being spotted for 10 seconds, maybe you're just spotted for 6. That would make the implant more versatile all around, even in larger fights where it loses a lot of its purpose, and it would also help make the information it's providing a little bit less of a guessing game. I don't think that any of that is necessary to make the implant useful. I still feel that it's very useful, but I could definitely see it becoming a more popular choice at the very least. Anyway, both infantry and max units can equip the counterintelligence implant, but it will not function while you're inside of a vehicle. Even if you're in a rumble seat, the implant will do absolutely nothing for you. An upside is that counterintelligence will trigger if you're struck by an opponent with the marker implant equipped, as well as if you're striking somebody else who has the awareness implant equipped. So both of those implants I've reviewed in the past. If you're curious about how they work, then feel free to check out those links in the video description. Motion spotters do not trigger counterintel, neither does firing an unsuppressed weapon, or running through a recon dart, or being observed by a scout radar of some sort. Basically, unless you're 3D spotted, you aren't triggering counterintelligence. For those who don't know, 2D spotting is slang for when you appear on the minimap, and 3D spotting refers to the red triangle above your head because you're spotted in the 3-dimensional world. In larger battles, counterintelligence loses a lot of its gusto because you're usually 3D spotted, or at the very least you're 2D spotted by motion spotters or recon darts, and even if you aren't at the moment, there still won't be much room for you to make use of that information when you do end up getting spotted. Keeping that in mind, I do actually enjoy using the counterintelligence implant because, unlike something like Sensor Shield, it's easy to figure out exactly how much it's helping you. For example, if you're about to grab a vehicle from your terminal and you're suddenly spotted, then you immediately know that you can start moving and strafing and avoid that sniper that was trying to go for the easy kill. I wanted to use that example to start with because A, it's happened to me before, and B, it shows a clear-cut example of the power of that sort of counterintelligence, hence the name. But even knowing when you're not spotted is a massive benefit in itself. Players spot targets all the time, to the point where it's just habitual for veterans, and usually takes place before they even open on you. Thanks to this, running counterintelligence provides you with the ability to instantly react and adjust to your situation. Unlike awareness, which requires you to already have taken damage before seeing somebody on the minimap, or sensor shield, which doesn't give you an indication of when it's being useful at all. On top of that, think about how many times a spotted target has caught your attention in-game. We'll oftentimes focus on those targets first. Nighttime no longer makes us more difficult to see, smoke won't conceal us, and everyone will know exactly how to ambush us just by looking at the minimap. So just knowing when you're at that disadvantage is an advantage in itself. That being said, some tips for making use of the counterintelligence implant are as follows. When you're spotted by an enemy, remember that you have 10 seconds of time when you're going to appear on the minimap along with your facing direction, and that's provided your duration doesn't get refreshed. If your implant lights up, consider hiding alongside allies and becoming one of the herd. This is going to make it a little bit more difficult for players to single you out. If you think that you were spotted at range, then you can just wait out the spot and your enemy will lose interest. Or at the very least, they're going to be forced to wait and reacquire you. This can be pretty dangerous for them depending on the circumstance. And if you're super clever, you can mislead your enemies by allowing them to think that you're moving in one direction, and then you double back once the spot clears. We've talked about this before, but it'll be more consistent in smaller fights when you know that you're sitting on a 10-second duration and you're not getting spotted repeatedly by multiple targets. And lastly, on the most basic fundamental level, if you are spotted, just know that you are unsafe. So you can look around for the guy who's going to shoot at you, or you can dart into cover. Overall, I do think that the implant is useful, especially for lone wolves, but does become less useful in larger fights or in more confined situations. It would be nice if the implant worked while piloting vehicles, as I think that that would be a really fun feature for players who like to run the stealth defensive certification. But either way, it is still a lot of fun for players who like to sneak around, or players who make use of knowing when they're spotted or not spotted. A very special thank you goes out to Obtuse Canadian, who helped me test some of this stuff out. And if this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and if you've gotten the chance to run the counterintelligence implant, let me know how you feel about it so far. If there's another implant that you'd like to see reviewed in the future, you can also drop those thoughts in the comment section as well. Thanks very much, folks. We're all signing off.